and so and sociological endeavor that we are involved in. So what I'm going to be doing today, again, I'm Trish Wood, and I'm with the National Citizens Inquirer and the spokesperson. One of the things I'm going to be doing today also is saying goodbye. I took this gig full of enthusiasm, which I still have for the people and for the mission. But I made a kind of a dumb promise to myself at the beginning of the COVID crisis, and that is that I was going to say yes to everything. I wanted to make sure that I was participating in this historic event as an independent journalist and commentator. And I said yes to these people when they asked me. I couldn't say no. And then I found out it was too much of a time commitment for me because I have a lot of other projects on the go. So I'm stepping aside today, and I'm going to introduce you to my brilliant replacement who will be traveling to all the different cities where the commission is meeting and will be speaking on behalf of the commission with any questions news media or other people may want to know about this endeavor. So I'm going to do that today too. I'll be introducing you to her. But first I want you to meet two of our new commissioners. I'm going to start with Janice Kikkonen. And I'm going to go to her first because I know she's in a snowy area of Ontario right now, and we're afraid she might lose her internet. So let's do you first in case you lose it. How are you, Janice?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well.
The screen keeps saying unstable internet, so let's go quick.
Okay, so we'll rock and roll through this. I want to ask you, I guess, first of all, why you said yes to being part of this. It's going to be a hard slog. It's multiple cities and not a very long period of time. You're going to be absorbing tons of complex scientific information. I'm sure there'll be, moments of intensity too. Why did you decide to take it on?
Well, I work with vulnerable populations and youth, and both of those populations have been negatively affected in so many ways, and their voices not being heard. And I think that I'm here because I believe that people's voices of ordinary Canadians just needs to be heard. And that has not been the narrative. They haven't had space for alternate opinions or other opinions. And some of them are hurting. You think of the business people who have lost businesses that they spent years working to build up and they're just gone. And you think of all of the things that have happened. I think of the social fabric because of who I work with in my day to day. I think that we're broken, and I think we need to find ways to speak loudly with shared voices, testimony of people who have been in places that they think that we could do a better job in the future. And I think overall, I believe that we need to bring back the spirit of hope in this country that brings us to a place where we can heal again. There's been so much hurt over the last 2 or 3 years, and we have been deprived of our right to just speak, to share our testimony, to share our lived experiences openly without being criticized for it. So I think overall, I believe that National Citizens Inquiry is a good thing. It's going to give voice back to the people of this country who haven't had an opportunity as of yet to speak.
I love that you have a bit of I think you have a degree in apostolic theology, which is very, very interesting to bring that to the mix. You're a retired educator as well. I'm just wondering if you feel there's kind of a spiritual dimension to this too. I feel we've sort of lost something, and I'm wondering if that's the spiritual piece has been harmed in some way or can be reinvigorated in this country.
We have definitely lost hope. We have lost our foundation that the framers and founders of this country put together when they formed this nation. And we were a great nation. And so we've lost a lot of that ability to speak freely, to associate with friends, to be part of the community, part of the social fabric. So I think overall that's probably what's behind me stepping up stepping up at this point to just kind of say, there's voices out there that are important. Ordinary Canadians deserve to be heard. We really deserve to be heard. And hopefully in just speaking about what has happened and having some credibility to our voices that we can heal in this great nation again and move forward. I think that that's why I'm here, is because, and I believe that this is an opportunity for ordinary Canadians to speak up and share their experiences.
You're going to be questioning people, obviously witnesses of all kinds, scientific and just regular human beings. Um, do you have any special gifts in that area? Are you a good listener? Are you good at zeroing in on the information you think you need to get?
Well, for starters, I have 7 children, adult children, and 17 grandchildren. So there's a lot of listening all the time. But further from that, I was a member, researcher on the PEI Task Force on Student Achievement. And there we had to listen. We had to listen to all the voices, the different sectors that make up, comprise education. And we had to come up with a report and recommendations that would work. And on the other side of my life, I'm a researcher, so I can pull all the different pieces together, and hopefully we can make this work. I think we're good. I think we're in the right direction. We're going in the right direction. I think we have a lot of things that will help this country step up and just say, we're not going to allow quiet quitting. We're not going to just hide in our houses anymore. That we have a place that we can be part of society and move forward. So I think that's where I'm at. In terms of my other experience, I'm elected school trustee. And as an elected school trustee, you listen to a lot of parents and a lot of the different voices. So I'm very good at listening. We'll
Good.
see as we go forward.
A lot of listening, so I'm glad you're good at it. Hi, Heather D. Gregorio. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. So you're a lawyer and you are in
I'm in
Alberta.
Calgary. Yeah.
Alberta, great. So what was it about this endeavor that encouraged you to jump on board? Because as I just said to Janice, it's going to be a big effort on your part, isn't it?
Yeah, so, I really strongly feel that Canadians deserve to have an open and honest inquiry into what our pandemic response was as a country. I know during the last 3 years, I've had a lot of questions. A lot of my fellow Canadians, I think, have a lot of similar questions around what steps we took to deal with the spread of COVID-19. Some of my questions even include, did we do anything well? Did we have successes? But also, obviously, what could we have done better? And I think that to answer these kinds of questions, for me, it's really important that we need to hear from our fellow Canadians and listen to them and do a really sober review. And for me, I was attracted to this commission because it's a group of Canadians who I think are committing to really approach this with an open mind, and try to gather as much information as we can to listen, learn, and ultimately come up with recommendations, which will hopefully help inform the next pandemic, if one should come along. And really, that's the reason why I decided to sign on.
Yeah. I mentioned to Janice the idea that you're going to be asking a lot of questions, and then I said in my opening remarks too that there has been some censorship, obviously, around COVID and COVID policy, and even just the science around it, and a feeling. I guess we can say now there was a feeling that there was a consensus scientifically, and now we're learning actually there wasn't, that some of the dissenting voices, weren't heard. So how important is it for you to really get the whole picture finally out there for people to fully understand this event?
So as a lawyer, I'm very used to looking at all sides of an equation. When we're going into court, I need to not only understand the position I've developed, but what is the position that has been advanced on the other side. And also, in giving advice to my clients, I need to understand what is the strength of each side. So I think I have a really good background in listening and understanding sort of all sides of a problem, and trying to come up with what's the best way forward. Now, I won't be advocating in a particular direction as I would normally as a lawyer in this situation. I view my role more as gathering all of the information and trying to reach the conclusions that come from it. We're going to follow whatever the information is that comes. We're going to listen to everyone who comes in front of us. We don't have any intentions to exclude anyone, and I'm really interested and excited to hear what it is that we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I'll ask you this, and then I'll go back to Janice, and then we'll move on to introducing Michelle, our new spokesperson. But what is the biggest question you want to ask some of the scientific people who will be coming in? What have you been pondering?
So I don't have a scientific background, and I don't even know. I think there are some other members of our panel who will have very technical scientific questions to ask. My task, I think, is going to be to understand what they bring to us in layman's terms, in a way that we can attempt to understand as the general citizenry of Canada.
Right. Janice, I guess I wasn't specifically asking about a scientific question, but rather a question about the methodology of pandemics. But Janice, is there something that you have been wanting to ask some of the big brains that are going to be coming in to give evidence?
I think it's great, like Heather said, that we do have the big brains in with us, so we're being commissioners as well. I think that's important. But I think some of the questions revolve around truth. Will the truth prevail? And I think the truth always prevails. And the more that we hear people's testimonies, we'll be able to filter down what they've experienced and measure it off against the science. I think this is a good starting point, because discussion is important. Freedom of expression in this country is important. And I believe it's part of the foundation of our social fabric. So I think by just bringing those voices together and measuring with what has happened in lived experiences with what the science has said, I think we are heading in the right direction. I really believe that this is what this country needs to heal. But at the same time, we have not been given truth. We have had different professional medical people who have been pushed to the side because they've raised an alternative perspective. And I think what we need to hear is those alternative perspectives and make the science mesh. And from all of those voices, I really truly believe that we can have a truth that is a broader truth, is more comprehensive, and it filters down to so that ordinary people can understand the science. The modeling, we had a lot of modeling that was different depending on which part of the country you were in. We had different mandates depending on which part of the country you were in. And so I think that a lot of people question what actually happened, or what was happening, or what is happening. And even now we're still feeling some of the effects of those mandates. So I think that everything, like all the voices together, and having two commissioners on our inquiry that can also add to those voices from a very technical scientific viewpoint is very important for all of us. And I think Canada will be healthier as a result.
Heather. Oh, sorry, I looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh, I would completely echo Janice's comments about, hearing all sides of the scientific debate, and not just what I think has been advanced and heard by most of us on most channels. And I would also echo her comments on hoping that this process is part of the healing process for our country going forward. I know that there's been a lot of stress and anxiety, and I think that having an open discussion where we're hearing everyone's voices is the first step in doing that.
Okay, well, you guys are off on a big adventure, aren't you, in a sense? I envy you that you can do that. I think it's going to be life-changing for you to be out in the country and meet all of these interesting people from around the world and from here, and all of our wonderful Canadian people. How wonderful for you guys. It's good.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yes, we are.
Are you going to stick around or say goodbye? You can take your choice. Well, Janice may go because her yeah. Thank you both. It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too, Trish.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to go to Michelle Leduc-Catlin, who is the new me, sort of. How you doing?
I'm very well, and I'm definitely honored to be the new you.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored you're the new me. So there you go. I guess I'll start by asking you, in a sense, what I asked them, which is why you've decided to take on this endeavor. Because I just stayed here, which was cool, because I've got so much other stuff on the go. But you are actually going to be going from town to town across this great country. Why did you decide to take this on?
Well, it's interesting. You said something. I was laughing when you said at the beginning of all this, you decided to say yes to everything. And I could completely relate. And so, of course, when I was asked, there was no possibility of saying no. And I was in the fortunate position of being flexible enough to be able to do this. So, like you, like Janice and Heather, who spoke before me, I think like everybody, I have a lot of questions. And since the beginning of this, I have been trying to get as much information and disseminate and put out as much information as possible. So when I found out that this was happening, this was like, I don't know, it's the right time, it's the right conversation for some of the reasons that both the commissioners spoke about. The first one, obviously, being to record history, to give voice to the people who have been voiceless. That for me is a very big thing. As Janice said, to record the lived experience of Canadians, which I think is so important. For the main reason, I think, of granting dignity to people who have not been granted that, have not been given the opportunity to speak. So that's a key piece for me. The second piece, and this one's more personal, is that I think that in this kind of open dialogue, we have an opportunity to find our commonality. So I saw that the survey that was done said that 3 out of 4 Canadians felt that they had been harmed by the policies that were put in place. That's something we have in common. That's a starting place for a dialogue. And as soon as I agreed to this role, I found myself able to have conversations with people that I haven't been able to find. It's like there's an inquiry. In other words, it's like a blank slate. We can actually begin a dialogue rather than coming from this division. So that is the most personal reason. And then there's a third piece for me, which actually was touched on. And that is that we've talked a lot about rights, especially in the last few years, and we haven't talked a lot about responsibilities. And I think the responsibility part of that is an opportunity for all of us. So for me, to step into your very big shoes is a huge opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to be my biggest self. And I think that's the opportunity for anyone participating in the inquiry in any way.
I think that's a really interesting way to put it, because I think what was missing from what we experienced was the idea that we were told there was a consensus. There wasn't really a consensus because of censorship and other things that happened, which I don't think anybody disputes now. So it's going to be very interesting to be able to provide this vehicle through which Canadians are going to hear both sides. They're going to hear from people that weren't necessarily being covered by the mainstream media. They didn't have a platform per se, right? You had to hunt to find them. So I think that's going to be very interesting for people too, and may go, as you say, far down the road to sorting out the division. I mean, I still see people on the street who are bickering about this or that public health edict, right? And that's not good for us. It's not good for us. And I also think, if I just say, and then we'll go, sorry. I also think one of the things we need to do too is try to dispel some of the fear, because fear was the driving force. And I think there are people who may be frightened for a very long time when they don't need to be.
I completely agree. And I think that this inquiry is rooted in compassion, in empathy, in saying, let's hear from people, let's hear their stories, let's connect heart to heart rather than just information source to information source.
So let me ask you this: are you going to be on the road continuously, or what's your travel plan? Do you do 3 days and then home, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, so I was looking at how to do this. So I am going to go to Nova Scotia. Then I'm going to come back to, right now, I'm just outside of Ottawa temporarily. Then I'm going to go back to Toronto for that. From there, once we move to Winnipeg, I'm going to continue west. It doesn't make sense to keep flying back east 4 times. So, yeah.
Well, you're going to get a lot of frequent flyer miles anyway, aren't you?
That's true. That's true.
You're tired, but you're going to make a lot of friends. This reminds me of the old days when I was, investigative reporting. And as it happens, I went up to the Exxon Valdez oil spill for a month, and it was hard. Like, it was hard work. It was a pack of us reporters. It was very physical. And you'd sort of get up and have breakfast and work all day and then have a late dinner and go to bed. That's what your life is going to be like, right? But you're going to make new friends, and you're creating this wonderful document that will stand, I believe, in the annals of Canadian history as something really, really worthwhile. And I hope that the public sees it that way too. I do. I hope they participate in this.
I hope so too. And I think that camaraderie, I'm sure you've experienced that just in your reporting over the last couple of years, right? I certainly have. And I think that coming together is another of the opportunities out of this inquiry to come together, but as a culture, as Canadians, all together, right? That being on the road with it is maybe the center part of it, but all of us have an opportunity to participate in whatever way.
I did an event in Bedeque, Nova Scotia, with some really amazing people, and the overarching sentiment of people walking into a room with other people who wanted to talk about this was tears and gratitude. People were saying, "Oh my God, we can finally, ask these questions, talk about this." It was amazing how much pain and loneliness is still out there in the country. So you guys are going to go out and you're going to sort that out. You're just going to go.
I'm so moved by that. I mean, even as we know, within families, within my own family, to be able to say I'm doing this was a bit of an olive branch, to say, well, this is an inquiry, not about my opinion, your opinion, not about sides, but about inquiring together. This is the most exciting part.
Yeah, that's great. So very nice to meet you, Michelle.
It's great to meet you, Trish, and a real honor to take over as spokesperson.
My email so you can keep me up to date on your adventures on the road. Maybe there's a book in for you.
Quite possibly.
So I just want to say to the people who are watching this that I'm very grateful I had a chance to do this. I was really honored to be asked by Preston to do it. I think it's worthwhile. I feel like there aren't a lot of places in the world that are doing this with any credibility. And I'm actually not sure it's something the government could have done. I don't think it's bad that the people are doing it. I think maybe that's the right move. So I'm going. And as I leave you, I will announce the cities, which I don't think have changed much, but it's Truro from March 16th to 18th, which is coming up. Toronto, the 30th to April 1st. Winnipeg, April 13th to 15th. Saskatoon, April 20th to 22nd. Red Deer, April 26th to 28th. Victoria and Vancouver are kind of quasi-confirmed, but no dates yet and no venues. So just check the website. And also go to the website, please, to, it's the National Citizens Inquiry. And look for 2 tabs. One will tell you what the schedule is as it firms up with the rest of those places. And also our important little donate tab, because we are fundraising, and it would be great if you feel so inclined that you would chip in to help us out. We've got to fly this gal around, so.
I also want to add that we will be in Quebec after we go all the way west. We'll be coming back to Quebec, either Montreal or Quebec City, and then ending in the nation's capital.
How could I leave those out? Those are so Okay, everybody, nice to be with you for this time again, and do check this out. It's an important series of events in our national lives. So do and take part if you can. Okay, I'm Trish Wood saying goodbye for Michelle Leduc Catlin, and as I say at the end of my show, see ya.